Hello and welcome to Murder Dictionary Podcast. My name is Brianna and that is Courtney.
Hello.
Before we jump into our case tonight, we wanted to point out a few things that will be in our description and show notes. You will find links to our Facebook, Instagram.
And now, a thought from Geico Motorcycle.
It took 15 minutes to take a spirit animal quiz online.
Please be the cheetah. Please be the cheetah.
And learn your animal isn't the cheetah, but the far less appealing blobfish.
Oh, come on.
To add insult to injury, you could have used those 15 blobfish minutes to switch your motorcycle insurance to Geico.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance.
And Twitter if you want to follow us over there. There will also be links to our resources that we use for research. If you want to look into the case a little bit more, then you can check those out. And you will also find links to our Patreon and our Threadless. So if you want merch like shirts and phone cases and stuff like that, then you can head over to Threadless. And if you want to get some bonus episodes and small items, then you can head over to our Patreon. So there's a few people we wanted to say thank you before we jump into the case. We want to thank Martha, Miku, Christina, and Stacy for their pledge on Patreon.
Thank you.
So thanks, you guys. We really appreciate you. And like we said recently, there's a couple new bonus episodes on there. So if you haven't listened to our new Patreon bonus episodes, there's 2 of them that we just put out in the last few weeks. So with all that said, let's get into our case for tonight. So we are on letter F, and we're talking about Facebook killers. So we've got another one tonight. And I didn't really look up too much more of the psychology of Facebook killing and stuff because I have some on next week's episode. I just jumped right into the story of this case.
Perfect.
And this is one of those ones where, you know, it covers those moments where you kind of argue with a stranger online in a comment section and you just have that thought of, what am I doing? Like, why am I arguing with a stranger? This is one of those stories where it's like, does this really matter?
It's just someone sitting in a basement anyway, right?
Right.
Why am I bothering?
I like approaching each subject from a different angle. When you talk about Facebook killers, you could either lure someone in like catfishing. Then there's this story where it's getting too upset because of something that happened on Facebook, or, you know, all these other ways that Facebook can be involved in murders. That's what I wanted to look at with this letter. So this is an example of just getting a little bit too upset about something that doesn't matter. So Jenelle Potter was born in 1980 to Barbara Potter, who worked at Hewlett-Packard, and Marvin Potter, that everybody called Buddy. And he was a former Marine that served in Vietnam, and he later worked with the CIA.
The CIA.
Although it's kind of vague when I was looking into it, is like, we don't really know. It doesn't say specifically, oh, he was an agent. It's just like, he worked with the CIA. Very vague. We don't know in what capacity, but it will come up later.
Yes.
So Jenelle had many health problems growing up, including type 1 diabetes. She was a special needs child and she required a lot of extra care from her parents. They were very attached and inseparable. When she got older, she was really unable to live independently. She couldn't maintain a job or drive a car.
And I believe a lot of these issues were the side and the extra effects, if you will, of like long-term diabetes and just, you know, a lot of other things that happen as a result of your disease.
Yes. Yeah. So there was probably a possibility at some point that she would have been healthy enough to be on her own, but eventually things had just kind of deteriorated.
Yeah.
But I think that it's an important factor in the kind of bond that develops between a parent and child when they stay in that role of needing you for so long.
Yeah.
It's different than an adult child has this kind of advanced relationship with their parents, you know?
Jumped out of the nest, right?
Yeah.
And then comes back here and there. This one never even got to jump out.
Right.
She never left.
In addition to being extremely attached to her parents, Jenelle also always had trouble making friends throughout her entire life. And it got even worse when her family moved to Mountain City, Tennessee in 2005. So to me, this is kind of important. Like, not only was she really attached to her parents, but that was all her social activity. Anytime she left the house, it's with her parents, you know?
Sure, yeah. The only people she hangs out with are her parents. So yeah, she is socially awkward to other kids probably.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
There's things that you don't learn as far as maturing and without having your friends around.
There's people in your life, my life, listeners' lives. We've all known that kid that just had a hard time making friends. You might have been that kid.
Yeah.
You know?
And Jenelle is that person.
Yeah.
You know, it's very isolating, her illnesses and stuff. Jenelle's estranged sister, Christy, says, quote, "Instead of being herself, my parents tried to make her fit in. They also, in the same breath, would say how different she was. And then she became unable to make friends normally."
Kind of seems similar to Dee Dee Blanchard and Gypsy Rose with the sick child where, well, she's just like everybody else. But no, you can't do that with her. She's not like anyone else. What?
I was trying to not draw parallels because to me, it's like, we know that the parents weren't causing her to be sick.
No,
but there
for
is
sure.
Totally an element of, you know, just at some point you're so scared because your child has been in such a terrible position for so long that you can't let them spread their wings. You can't really allow them to possibly get hurt.
You want to take them to the park and go on the swings. But then as soon as some other kid comes up to push them on the swing, don't push them too hard. You can't push them on the swing like that. Well, why are you on the swing?
Yeah, it's just this reinforcement of these feelings that she's different. These reinforcement of isolating her from other people. So Jenelle blamed her lack of friends on the fact that she didn't grow up in Mountain City. She claimed that in her little Tennessee town, people did not like outsiders. To her, it didn't seem to make sense that her social awkwardness or whatever that she had going on was part of why she didn't have friends. It was all just location. So, of course, social media became Jenelle's escape. And it was the only way that she was able to make friends. Her parents were concerned about who she might come in contact with online. Again, just trying to protect her as much as they could. So even on her Facebook, it was monitored by her parents, Barbara and Buddy. They were always checking and seeing what she was doing.
Which, I mean, again, you've like set this up to do that, but then give her no adult life.
Right. I think that, I don't know, it's just you've got to allow this person to develop. They're becoming an adult. I mean, they're not really able to mature in any way without having any socialization. And that's the kind of thing that you do to a 7-year-old where you're like, I'm going to monitor your online activity. You got to give her some independence. And how much does that contribute to her just feeling alienated and different and isolated?
It also makes me wonder what she actually knows in her real life. Like, does she actually know how things work? What are they letting her know? What are they letting her see? What information are they keeping from her?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, there's just no way for her to have an understanding of
reality,
life and reality as anyone at the age that she is, because she's held back by X amount of years by her parents, because they're still talking to her like she's 7.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if she's 20.
And they tell everyone too that, you know, she's only got this much capacity. Don't overwhelm her. So she might not even know that, like, I mean, anything simple, just put it in there. Yeah. Anything. She might not know.
Yeah. And I don't know. I can't help but judge her parents for this, because I feel like in order to let your child grow, and if, you know, they're struggling with health issues, you have to give them the space to be independent, you know?
It's the fear.
Oh, man.
The fear of the unknown and what could happen to her, and they won't be there to help her and save her.
Yeah. I want to be understanding about it, but I'm judging the shit out of them.
No, of course. Of course we're judging them.
And the thing is like the reason I'm judging them is they're still sheltering her and monitoring her Facebook. And we're not talking about someone who's like a teenager. At this point, Jenelle is 31 years old. Yes, she has health issues, but she's an adult. She's been an adult for some time now. you know, and they just kept claiming that she had the mind of a 10-year-old, which we don't really know if that's necessarily true.
I have a hard time believing 10-year-old.
There is some immaturity there.
There's
if you want to say like 17, but 10, if you want to say like 20, okay, but 10, no.
Late teens.
I'm not buying it.
I'd say that she was, you know, like 15, 16-year-old capacity, I would say, you know, where the teenage mind. I mean, that's just the best way I can think of it, where it's just like, oh, this is flippant as fuck, and I'm doing this now. Like,
yeah, I really think of her as kind of like a 18, 19-year-old. To me, in my mind, that's what makes sense from her behavior later on. And it just seems to me like, yes, she's not fully matured like a 30-year-old woman is. However, how much of that is her just not having the experience that other people have allowed her to have?
Young
you know?
adult. She
just never could grow. So it's strange to me that her parents are insisting that she's that young, because that's pretty extreme, 31 to 10. But that was, I think, a big contributing factor to her just, I don't know, wanting to escape through online. In real life, Jenelle finally made friends when she met a clerk at her pharmacy named Tracy Greenwell. And Tracy says that she and her friends kind of felt sorry for Jenelle because she was so sheltered and she was sick. And so they brought her into the group of friends. It seemed like they had a lot of compassion for the fact that they're looking at their 31-year-old woman, and clearly she's not really socialized very well. And they just wanted to help her have some normalcy, you know? Some people said that at this point, when she was introduced to the group, Jenelle developed a bit of a crush on Tracy's brother, Bill Payne. But when Jenelle met Tracy's cousin, Jamie Curd, that's who she really hit it off with. And by all accounts, from what we know, this is really the first time she's ever been with a boy.
Yeah.
You know?
In the room by himself, like with a boy. Yeah.
And she's 31 years old.
Yeah.
So I just can't imagine the kind of experience that is to have your first boy crush at 30.
Because you've had no experience. Like, you haven't even been able to.
Right. And nobody's allowed you the space to even experience any of those feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just keeping her completely sheltered. Over time, the two of them began dating, but Jenelle decided to hide the relationship from her parents and keep it a secret. Which I can imagine. I mean, it is very similar to Dee Dee and Gypsy. I think because they were so protective, she's behaving like someone that's not old enough to date, right?
And he knows about this, and he's cool with it because he gets this burner phone and slides it to her without her parents knowing.
Right.
And that's how they communicated, was text messages on the side. So, yeah, there's kind of a weird element of enabling. And I mean, I don't want to blame her or any, you know, but it's also like, I don't know. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
A lot going on. And it is really, the whole time, it has shades of Gypsy and Nicholas Godejohn big time.
Yes, definitely. And I think that that's one of those things that kind of bonds people together is secrecy.
You and me against the world. No one else knows.
Right? I mean, You see this all the time.
All the time.
So the fact that they did have to kind of sneak around, they liked each other, they're trying to figure out what's going on, but it's got to like be a secret from the parents.
And it's double exciting because you don't even know.
Right. Right. It's a lot for her. So once in a while, Jamie would visit the Potter home to help fix the family computer because he was actually quite handy with technology. I don't know if he worked in IT, but he was definitely the computer guy for all their group of friends. So, you know, they actually knew him. The parents were familiar with Jamie, but they didn't know that the two of them were dating. So behind the parents' back, Jenelle and Jamie would secretly spend time together. And at this point, of course, it's finally like Jenelle's social life is blossoming. But unfortunately, at the same time that things were kind of going right, she was making friends, starting to date, her online life started to implode.
And that's all her parents really know about is her online life because she keeps everything else so secretive. So this is a big deal.
Yeah.
Her life is, they know it.
that's all they know because they see her at home. I mean, they've just got what's in front of them, but all they know about her social life is what they see from Facebook, really.
Which they monitor constantly.
Constantly.
So they're totally wrapped up and caught up in this whole thing too.
I can't imagine living a life where I'm refreshing the feed on my child's Facebook. That seems maddening to me.
I'm glad I don't have kids.
Right?
I would just live by all those apps. Monitor, spy on your kids. Constant.
Yeah, I don't know. But then this woman's 31 years old.
Monitor your 31-year-old.
That's
that
nuts.
would be funny as hell too.
Oh my God. So, she's got this social life. She's got new friends, this guy that they don't know about. But what was happening online was that she was being bullied and attacked on Facebook. There was a ton of constant, anonymous, hateful comments to her. People would say that she was a horrible and bad person, and there were even threats on her physical safety. So at this point, I think they didn't really have anything to be concerned about before, but now this is the point where it's just like it validates all their concerns. All the reasons that they were checking up on her, the reasons they were protecting her, I'm sure they feel justified at this point.
One of the threats that she kept getting was she was too pretty to live.
I don't remember that.
For
real?
I wrote it. It's written in quote. She's too pretty to live.
What?
Yeah. And that's when you go,
that's a red flag.
Wait a second. Wait a goddamn second here.
Something's hinky.
Yeah. But no, her mom just went, oh my God, she's too pretty to live. They're going to kill her. She is too pretty to live. She's my daughter. Right?
Wow.
Too pretty to live. Say that about me. Damn. Shit, I'll take that.
It's a hell of a compliment.
Who says that? You know who says that? Someone who has no concept of how people really talk to each other.
Right. Someone who doesn't socially understand very well.
Someone who's trying to take a crazy statement.
Yes. We see where this is going.
Mm-hmm.
I totally don't remember that. I'm glad that you brought that up.
I had to.
Oh my God. So her mother, Barbara, tried to intervene, of course, and she posted a plea on Jenelle's page for everyone to leave her alone. She begged for everyone to stop harassing Jenelle and hurting her daughter. According to Jenelle, she believed that a woman named Billie Jean Hayworth was behind the attacks because she was jealous of Jenelle's looks. Too pretty to live.
Way too pretty to live.
So the thing with Billie Jean was that she was dating Jenelle's friend Tracy's brother, Bill. Remember, this was the one that people thought that she had a crush on.
Obsession was also a word that I read was thrown around about that too.
I think that's kind of easy to just say after the fact.
I think she always had him in the back of her mind that I wonder what Bill's up to. And I guarantee you she spied the shit out of him online. What's Bill up to? What's Bill up to? What's Bill up to? I'm dating Jamie, but gosh, what's Bill up to?
Yeah, I would totally disagree normally until it's just when I think about the kind of behavior that she exhibits that's so obsessive. You're right. I mean, it does make sense. In most other scenarios, I would be like, this person's got a life. Who's got time to obsess about
woman.
Bill?
She's obsessed with me.
Yeah, I don't want to think that about someone, but I think that it was partially due to her maturity and the way that she wasn't allowed to grow.
No, it's completely related to this is all she has to think about.
So
anything's an obsession when that's all you've got.
I think that for her, this might have been just like a Teen Beat magazine or Tiger Beat, like this to her, having a social media presence was her way to kind of just crush on boys, right? It's kind of the feeling I got.
I don't think you're that far off on that.
So Billie Jean and Bill lived together with their infant son. But Jenelle seemed to believe that Billie Jean was the one bullying her because she felt threatened by Jenelle and Janelle's crush on Bill. Jenelle responded by attacking Billie Jean and saying that she wished Bill, Billie Jean, and the baby would die. So Jenelle was accused of being paranoid and always thinking that someone was mad at her. It seemed almost like people thought that she was making up stories about people hating her and wanting to kill her for attention. She wanted people to come to her side and save her, kind of. From the perception that I was reading about, it really does seem like people thought she was just experiencing a very normal online negativity, and she blew it out of proportion.
Possible.
Like, we've all experienced that where just there's negative feedback. That's like a big part of being online.
Yes.
So I think people took it as her not having the maturity and wherewithal to understand that everybody went through this. But when you look back at her social media and knowing that her mom was involved in stuff, I mean, there was definite threats happening. So even though people thought she was making it up, she started flat out publicly accusing Billie Jean and Billie of doing this. So after Jenelle accused Billie Jean, other people began jumping in and coming to defense of one side or attacking the other. There were people falling on either side of this. Of course, everyone began arguing online, and her boyfriend Jamie came to Jenelle's defense. And this feud put Jenelle's pharmacist friend Tracy in a rough spot, since, of course, she introduced Jenelle to her entire social circle by this point. And she was a person that brought her in to everyone involved. And on one side, we've got Bill, Tracy's brother, and on the other side is her cousin Jamie.
That's gotta suck.
Yeah.
She's just a pharmacist who sees this sick girl in her family probably a couple times a week picking up meds. And she just sees her and she's like, this 30-something is bored. And, I feel bad for her. Like, maybe we can invite her to brunch next week. We'll see, maybe. And she comes and she's cool. And you're just like, this is my brother, this is my cousin. And you have no idea that there's just this time bomb that has been waiting to be introduced to their husband, the man that's going to come to them. Like their mom's been saying in Disney movies all day. You're a princess. He's going to find you. Don't worry. And that's got to be really hard to be the person that's like, she's nuts. Okay. Like her parents are crazy, but be nice to her. Okay.
Just give her a chance.
And then you do. And she's crazy.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
And then you're just like, sorry, everybody.
And she can't really speak up on either side.
No.
Right. But I would assume she would take her brother's side. But I mean, she's in a tough spot. This is her friend in the middle and two sides of her family on the other side.
And then your cousin's dating her. So you're also like questioning his sanity.
Right.
Right? At this point.
You're like,
something's wrong
now
with my cousin.
we know Jenelle's crazy. So can you break up with her? Like, what's going on here? Yeah. Tracy's in a rough spot. So even though some people didn't believe Jenelle entirely, she insisted the threats against her were real. There was an incident even where the Potter family called the cops. And what happened was they had found a rock in their front yard that had the names of Bill Payne painted on one side of the rock. And then the other side had the name Billie Jean on it. And her parents were really concerned.
That makes no sense to me either. I saw a picture of this rock.
Yes.
I mean, what in the hell? And then this is when something is not right. Because why would a rock with the people that are supposedly harassing, all this, it just, the logic is not lining up.
It really doesn't make sense.
Someone with no social skills and no understanding of how people work.
Right.
And manipulating.
And I would think that if you really wanted to make it look like something was going on, you break a window with that rock or something. But it's just left on the front lawn. I mean, just sitting there. It's very strange.
And mom and dad would never have seen that rock.
Right.
Grass hadn't been mowed either. It's like it's one of, it's a Tennessee yard. It just kind of mows itself. So it's just sitting there in the grass. You can tell, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just that grass that, nobody cuts it, but it's about ankle high. And it's just sitting there. She absolutely brought that rock to them.
Yes.
Or, hey, we need to call the police. I just found this rock.
And everybody's so really, really stuck on the idea of how innocent she is that nobody's going to stop and question whether she's involved with putting the rock there. And that's why she found it.
So is Gypsy.
Right.
She couldn't
super innocent.
Possibly be capable of this.
Right.
And also she's not sophisticated enough mentally. She's only 10, right? So there's that whole side too where do you even believe your own bullshit?
So, of course, both sides unfriended each other on Facebook. We've got rocks involved. There's cops being called. you're not my friend anymore. Right?
There's rocks involved. It's so true.
As Jenelle remembers it, she believes that she deleted Bill first and then Billie Jean unfriended her back. We don't know what the sequence is. Who knows? She says, quote, I think that we did it to each other. I unfriended them. They unfriended me. I did Bill first. Then I think Billie Jean did me and I unfriended her. There's so much going on.
I know.
In such a short sentence.
That whole, An
unfriendship goes one way and she's acting like it's both ways. Like she did me and then I did her. And then, like for someone that's
Unfriending
entire
orgy.
life, like revolves around Facebook, you have zero understanding of how friending and unfriending works.
Absolutely.
Right?
And it is funny too, because when you talk about this case to people and you're like, yeah, so this chick unfriended people and you're like, wait, that's the catalyst here? Like,
yes.
Wait a minute. I unfriend people all the time. Like, oh shit, they're coming.
I've been on like a for real blocking spree recently because that is what I said earlier. Like online is just, there's some negativity. You make a podcast, you put it out there, people can be weird.
It's a minefield.
So you block motherfuckers, right? If someone tried to murder me every time I block them, I'd be in big fucking trouble. And it's just crazy that things are taken so seriously. So seriously. It's just Facebook.
That is like the crux of this.
That's like,
there's a point where you just go, c'est la vie. So is like things happen. We gotta let it ride. We can't be this serious. No, Jenelle is like taking this so seriously.
Yes.
And forcing everyone around her to take it seriously.
I mean, she's working everyone into a tizzy. Her entire friendship group, her parents. I mean, now there's unfriending going on. Like
the drama.
It's just a crazy drama-filled world. So while this whole conflict and unfriending was going on with Billie and Billie Jean, Barbara, Jenelle's mother, began receiving emails from a CIA operative named Chris. Chris told Barbara that he could not reveal his real identity or use his real name because he couldn't blow his cover. So if you could choose any name as a CIA operative,
swear to God,
it's going to be Chris?
Yep.
I'm Chris from the CIA.
I'm John. No, wait. My name's Billy from the CIA. It's spelled with B-I-L-I. Just to add a little flavor. But my name's Billy and I'm from the CIA. And you're getting emails from me now.
I just immediately, if something like this happened, I'd be like, I need credentials, badges, something, send me everything.
No, I would go, oh my God, I got to forward this to Brianna. Some asshole thinks I'm going to believe that the CIA cares about me and what I'm up to on the internet.
You know what? If I wasn't your first call, your first text, I would be pissed.
First of all,
I would be pissed.
I can't tell you how many Nigerian scams I've been getting this week. I don't know if it's like, I don't know what the hell's going on in the water right now. It might be my 90-day fiance obsession because I get questions all the time now, requests from that kind of stuff. Hey lady, I need green card, like constantly. But dude, the CIA, how often are they just picking names out of the sky?
Yeah. Chris is that name from the sky though. It's a perfect sky
name. And I
name.
believe it.
So this agent, Chris, told Barbara that there were threats on her daughter Jenelle's life and she was in real danger. But he was the one that was going to keep surveillance on Jenelle and ensure that she was safe. Chris also reassured Barbara that he was going to get to the bottom of who was threatening her daughter Jenelle. But before Barbara could wait for the mysterious CIA agent Chris to get to the bottom of the bullying, her and her husband, Marvin, decided to take matters into their own hands.
But no, because the CIA's involved now. They'll fix it. Like they're going to take
magic.
care of it. So you can just sit back now.
Take a rest on the parenting.
Take a breather. You've been doing so
31
much parenting.
years.
Yeah. So much heavy parenting.
Let the CIA do it for you. So on January 31st, 2012, a friend found Bill and Billie Jean dead of single gunshot wounds to their heads. Bill's throat had also been slashed while he was lying in bed. At the time, Billie Jean was cradling their 7-month-old baby in her arms when she was murdered. And thankfully, the baby boy was actually unharmed and he survived the attack.
That is a really horrific scene.
Yes.
What I see in my head is just...
with the baby there.
Yeah, all of it. And
Oh
eventually
my
the
God.
baby, obviously wakes up and starts stirring. And like, does he roll? Does he move? Does he try to crawl? He's only 7 months. He's probably lifting his head, moving around. Does he roll off on accident? I mean, is he in the center of the bed? Is he on the foot? I can't. Baby stuff. Oh my God. But he's okay, little Billy John. He's alive. He's fine. And that's not his real name.
It just breaks my
I would rather call him that
heart.
than blow up his real name, to be honest.
Yeah.
This kid's had a life. I mean, Jesus, already? Poor guy. I'm just glad he's alive and okay.
Yeah.
It says a lot about who did the killing, too.
Right. That takes a very specific kind of horrific person to be able to do that while the baby is in a mother's arms.
And if you're just all about killing these people and slaughtering them, you kill the baby, too. Like, to me, that's just... even if the baby's little, like if you're already just bloodthirsty, like came out of nowhere and just kill these people and slitting throats and killing and shooting, you're killing the baby.
Yeah, it seems like someone that, I don't know, if it was more random, I think my mind would say that the baby would also be a victim. But if it was really specifically targeted at Bill and Billie Jean, it makes more sense that there's motive specifically for the two of them. So it does kind of narrow down your suspects. It does point you in a different direction because
that's
someone
where I
that's
would
just
go.
Like a serial killing drifter off the street with just bloodthirst, then yes, there would be an additional murder. But
absolutely,
you've got to think, who's got a problem with Bill and Billie Jean? That's your first question if they're going to leave the baby alone.
Billie Jean is not my lover.
When detectives started investigating, Jenelle's name came up right away. Everyone in their circle was familiar with the conflict.
Which says that it was way more intense. Like, it was a big fight. If this 31-year-old girl with the mentality of a 10-year-old, remember, is the first person they go to.
Yes. Yeah, there's definitely no smoke without fire, is it?
No fire without smoke. You might be right about that. What?
The day after the murders, detectives went to interview Jenelle, and they interviewed her parents also at their home. When she was being questioned, it really seemed like Jenelle was trying to hide the relationship with Jamie from her parents. It didn't necessarily seem like she had something to hide about the murders, but she was very concerned about them knowing about her boyfriend. So, once she seemed like a little bit secretive about this, the police decided they also needed to talk to Jenelle's boyfriend, Jamie. So after initially speaking with him, they decided to request that Jamie take a polygraph test. I think immediately they knew something was going on with Jamie.
Well, why? I mean, you just say immediately to him, why are you keeping this secret?
Yeah.
I mean, and
who are you protecting?
It just falls apart from there.
During the polygraph test, Jamie was asked if he knew the identity of Bill and Billie Jean's killer. So he answered no, but it was revealed that he was being deceptive and he had lied when answering that question. In his interrogation, Jamie brought up the CIA a couple times, which of course to detectives seemed extremely odd.
Okay, that is, I think, my favorite thing about this whole so far is when they're going to him and they're just asking him questions. Just, hey, these people, you know them, they're dead. Just your cousin is dead, actually. Jamie is your name. Your cousin's dead. What the hell? And he just won't stop talking about this CIA. Huh? Yeah, you're going to find that strange and probably note it.
Yeah. This is definitely an issue where just detectives are like, okay, that's way too left field for us. We've got to dig into this.
There's some cases where it's like, well, we had an idea, but we didn't want to point the finger and spook them or something. It's like, no, we know exactly what the fuck is up here because there's just too much like, shrugging. Just, that's weird.
I think at this point, they've got to just be like, we know that it's got to be this family. We just have to figure out and get to the bottom of the specifics.
Yeah.
What happened? Who did it? But we know it's one of you guys, right?
And if you didn't do it, you all know who did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jamie told detectives that he'd been texting with a man named Chris who said he was in the CIA. And he was the one that was assigned to protect Jenelle at all cost. After being interrogated for almost 6 hours, Jamie finally told police that Janelle's dad, Marvin, had committed the murders.
Yeah.
They knew if they just kept pressing him.
Yeah, he broke.
Marvin was arrested in February 2012. And police executed a search warrant on the Potter home. Most of the time I would be like, oh, this is tunnel vision and they're just focusing on them. There's a 6-hour interrogation, but we know they're going to find something. There's too many other things pointing in this direction, right?
Everything says, have you talked to Jenelle and her family?
During the interrogation, Marvin said, quote, ever since all this crap started, I've had my life threatened. My wife has been threatened. They've threatened to take Jenelle and cut her head off. But although he did get honest about the online bullies and talk about the threats against their family, he didn't talk about the murders at all.
I feel like there is this element of they did believe that there were people that were harassing at the very minimum, threatening their daughter, the most, and then possibly was going to come get her, And I don't know how much of this, he really believed, but I have to believe that he wholeheartedly was just like, they're threatening my daughter. You can read it on the computer. I'm scared to death. I have to protect my family at all costs. It's Chris from the CIA. He's not doing as good of a job as I will.
Yeah, I think that they have to believe him. On some level, you have to believe this. Yeah. If you're going to go to the extreme of murdering someone. And then the other part of my brain is just like, you can't be that dumb, right? Just anonymous CIA agent Chris is protecting your daughter from online bullies.
And it's weird because, as we said in the very beginning of this, that the father had done some sort of work, whether it was contracted out or something with the CIA. So I think that there's already this ability to peel that Band-Aid of the CIA is real, you've dealt with them. So I can exploit your maybe healthy fear already of the CIA, because that's such a weird thing. Again, if I got an email saying Chris from the CIA wants to talk, I would just be like, delete. Okay. Forward to Brianna. Delete.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So it would make no sense to me.
The only way it makes sense to me is that they have prior knowledge and affiliation with the CIA to go, oh, this is real.
And also that they're just so preoccupied with protecting their daughter for 31 years now that it's like, well, here's just another instance where she is a vulnerable child and I need to protect her.
At all costs.
So it does, it makes sense, the progression of everything, but I just don't feel like anyone in their right mind would take this shit seriously. It's Facebook.
Yeah, but you know what? People send their entire life savings through I have your daughter kidnapped in some weird country. And I got a phone call the other day that somebody was in prison and we needed to send them all the money.
What?
And so we called them back and it was crazy. And my boyfriend ended up having a pretty interesting chat with someone who was clearly trying to scam us or whatever. It's a numbers game. You call 100,000 people. One of them will be an old lady that is Alzheimer's and answering the phone for some reason, and we'll give her whole fortune up to somebody that, is just trying to scam them. Happens all the time. So that's why it is so weird to me that they just take this for what it is. And the only reason I can think it is because he did some sort of work with them and knows they're real, and maybe this is how they work.
Yeah, it just is very strange to me that anyone in their right mind would believe it. But it's like, believe it. It happened. They believed it because you would have to believe it wholeheartedly to commit a murder, So, and I think maybe there was an element of the CIA kind of validating the claims that Jenelle was saying. So there's
Yes.
like some negativity on her Facebook and then some she's saying that's like going on behind the scenes and insisting that it's worse than it is. And then if you're questioning your daughter and the validity of those threats, the CIA coming in is like, oh no, this is real.
Yeah.
As far-fetched as it sounds to you and I think it helped them believe it. So after interrogating him for a long while, detectives decided to let Marvin call his wife Barbara. And they were hoping that, of course, he would say something incriminating. And sure enough, he just flat out said that he did it.
That was easy.
Right? Like, again, it's just like, it makes me question their intelligence because anyone would know that their phone call would be monitored, you know?
Yes.
So, however, Barbara did not believe her husband had committed the crime. In fact, quite a few people that knew Marvin couldn't accept that he had done such a thing. One of the biggest problems was that Marvin had a ton of health issues, and people thought that he wasn't well enough to commit this physical activity, basically. Barbara also theorized that her husband had falsely confessed because he didn't have access to his medication, and he was just kind of deliriously out of it, saying whatever the detectives wanted him to say. Barbara said, quote, when they took him, they took no oxygen. They took no medication. And they interviewed him for hours. When his oxygen gets low, he says things that don't make sense or are incorrect.
Nobody wants to believe that he did this. Which tells me again that he believed this because it's so out of character. And he's just so, yeah, I did it. You know, like, he was protecting his daughter. He does not feel guilty about this. He doesn't feel bad about it. He was doing what he had to do. He's a father. This is what fathers do.
To me, saying the health is kind of an argument against him doing it, I had the opposite reaction. Like, he kind of has nothing to lose. His health is failing. All the more reason to do something desperate and feel like, well, I'm not going to live much longer. I'm not going to be held accountable for very long.
Let me just take care of this while I can. Wrap it up with a bow on it.
It feels like a Breaking Bad situation.
Yes.
You know? He's like, well, what have I got to lose? The search warrant, which was executed at the time of his arrest, led to the discovery of an arsenal of weapons, but none of them matched the murder weapon. Officers also found printed pictures of the victims, Bill and Billie Jean, along with some of their other friends. At one point, Barbara ripped up the printed photos in what is assumed to be an attempt to conceal the items from police. But in my mind, it's like you're going out of your way to call attention to them almost.
This whole thing is just, Barbara is not very good at criminal activity.
Every time I try and apply logic to this situation, none of it makes sense.
No.
Barbara, Marvin, Jenelle, like none of their actions add up to me.
They feel like people who they have just been with the three of them in a house by themselves, isolated, and it's like your brain suffers, you regress mentally. It's similar, I hate to say it, but it's like the Averys kind of, you know, where they're just so isolated and just together that they're strange. They're weird because they can only relate to each other.
But it seems normal to them.
Seems perfectly normal to them.
Yeah, it's just from an outside perspective, it's like, what is any of this? Like, none of it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I want to put up a conspiracy theory board and be like,
I'm with it.
Let's break down the psychology of this, you know?
Let me get my clipboard.
So in total, they seize 51 items from the house, including their family computer. A search warrant of Marvin's truck resulted in the discovery of bags filled with shredded documents. Officers had to meticulously reconstruct over 100 pages to figure out what evidence that the Potters were trying to destroy.
And they didn't burn any of it. It's paper. It's paper, folks.
Just burn it.
I mean, what the hell?
Again, this is one for the board.
And
like,
you see
what
the
is
picture.
going
Yeah,
on?
you've seen the picture of the truck with the bags of the shredded stuff. And it's like that truck could have been just driven into a fire. I mean, the truck is like, it's
get rid of the truck along with the papers.
Old as
really.
fuck, man. Like, you don't need this thing anymore.
Just looks like a truck my dad used to drive, you know?
During good, clean, fun hitchhiking days.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, it's just a total joke to me. It's like, what the fuck? I mean, you burn this.
Yeah. It's just a dumb move.
They're very much the people that print MapQuest, you know? They're those people. Like, there's shredded paper everywhere in their house. There's just bags of shit. They just got pictures of people printed off the internet when it's all fun.
Yeah.
Isn't it just fun?
It's ridiculous is what
it's really
is.
insanity.
It's crazy.
Any excuse I can have to burn shit, I'm there. Like, we got a bunch textbooks. When I was a kid, that was my favorite excuse to have a bonfire. We got to burn all our books. It's the last day of school. Take them all home. Workbooks, right? Throw them in the fire. You get your kicks for about 6 months. Then you find something else to burn in the backyard, right? I would have been all over this.
Are you coming out of the closet as a pyro to me right now? Is that what's really going on?
I've never been in the closet about that. It's kind of a land of the dirt people thing too. Like, you just go out in the desert and you burn shit. You shoot some guns and you burn stuff.
Oh, sometimes they just don't know who you are at all. It
I'm
just
many
comes
people.
out of the left field.
I am many, many people in one.
So the detectives pieced all these emails together, 100 pages, and they were trying to figure out what this evidence was. And when it was finally put back together, there were thousands of emails to the Potter family. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation's Special Agent Scott Lott said, quote, "After combing through the emails, it appeared there was some type of conspiracy here. They kept referring to a guy named Chris that's supposedly a CIA operative or something."
I'm so sorry. I just can't stop over here. And they seem to be referring to some man named Chris from the CIA. Like, even the way that they write these memos, it's like with the implied giggle.
Right. Like, I'm being extremely professional,
Totally.
but also have a very good sense of humor about what's going on here.
They also referred to Zeta and Zethra.
Right.
You know, like, huh?
The CIA agent Chris had apparently been corresponding with Barbara and warning her about threats on her daughter Jenelle's life. Barbara says, quote, "Chris was watching these people that he said were harassing her on the computer and calling her. And when she would go out with her dad, Chris said they were watching them together. He said he couldn't use his real name or his real identity." So they knew that Jamie, Jenelle's boyfriend, was the first one to crack. So they kept digging into him and they knew there was more information to get from him. A search of their phone records made the detectives suspicious that Jenelle knew more than she was letting on. Officers say that it was clear from the text messages between Jamie and Jenelle that she was actually involved in preparing for the murders.
It's fucked up because, if for no other reason, Jamie is Bill's cousin.
Right.
Jamie is blood relatives. That baby is his third cousin once removed or something like that. I mean, this is his family and this is Tennessee. And that is not something you take lightly. You live and die by your family.
It's just insane to me.
The fuck is he doing? He's breaking all the rules.
He just doesn't care. Like, I don't understand. Or he thinks that they're so justified, you know, like, okay, if they're going to attack my girlfriend, then by whatever means necessary, we need to stop them. Maybe he believed that wholeheartedly, but it is like important to point out he knew about the murders and that was his family.
Yes, that was his family. And it makes me wonder also about his capacity to understand the repercussions of actions.
Well, you brought up Nicholas Godejohn.
Of course.
There may be some similarities there where he may have just not fully understood what was going on, maybe not had the capacity to like see this
now
forward.
This is, okay. The fact that he even was with Jenelle anyway, because of her own limited capabilities that they say she had the capacity of a 10-year-old, maybe 15 max, right? Like, he's an adult. It's kind of an interesting, another Gypsy and Nicholas situation where she may have found the perfect mark and he just happened to have diminished capability. And in this situation, that helps. Unfortunately, with crime, it really helps when you don't know exactly what you're doing and who you're with.
Or, I think that there may have been something malicious there, but the other side of that is like, maybe it's just something they had in common, that he did have diminished capability. She had the same sort of diminished capability, and they could relate to each other. If nothing else, if it's innocent, it could be just that. And then it just became like they were in over their heads once this drama started with Facebook.
What you're speaking of is the movie The Other Sister, I believe.
Oh.
Is that kind of? Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally see it. I see what you're saying completely. And I think we're both on the right track.
But I mean, you're right. I mean, she was so manipulative of her parents and this entire situation, and obviously sending emails and possibly making up some of the Facebook threats.
Yeah.
We don't really know. He could have been completely a mark, but there's that one side where it could have been malicious. And the other side is maybe they just really cared for each other.
I think she was way more because she wanted Bill and couldn't have Bill. So here's Jamie. Is kind of, I feel bad for Jamie.
Yes.
In this weird, there's an aspect of it where, I really do sort of, there's pattern. There's a way to say that she knew much more. She also created so many other accounts and manipulated things behind the scenes much smarter than someone I think would if they had this 10-year-old capability. And I feel that she might have been more advanced in the manipulation stage than Jamie.
Yeah. I think that for me, it's like her parents treating her like a 10-year-old and thinking she wasn't capable of this. But then she had the mind of, I think, like a teenager. So there's some very intense like obsession and these intense crushes. And then kind of feeling like she had the power to manipulate people. And she's like a teenager. She could just manipulate people and she doesn't think of the consequences.
Yeah.
And they are still stuck on thinking she's so innocent. She's only the capability of a 10-year-old. So we don't think she would do anything bad. It never occurred to them to question that she may have been like the puppeteer this whole time.
She knew it and she used it. Absolutely. Exploited that.
It seems like I don't want to believe that Jamie knew what was happening to his cousin and the baby. Like, I really don't want to believe that. So I don't know if she was just pulling his strings.
He could have thought he was going to go over there and give him a stern talking to.
Yeah, maybe. And
because
then
again,
found out
there's a baby. Like, who thinks that that's going to go down the way that went down?
Yeah. It's
I really
so
want to give
extreme.
him the benefit of the doubt.
Huh?
I really want to give him the benefit of the doubt that, like, it's your family. You didn't set him up. But,
yeah,
it's ugly.
There's so many people involved here, It's just, that always bothers me. I think I've mentioned before, like, if it's a lone person acting by themselves, it's not okay, but it's far less creepy than a group of people.
Groupthink is something to go down that rabbit hole.
And it just bands them together, like, to do this. So everyone is agreeing that this is completely acceptable.
And you don't
morally.
have to say anything out loud. Just you physically being there with the other person is you saying this is okay.
I just,
it's nuts.
And then it's a family member. So it's so many layers of awfulness. So the real reveal of the whole case happened when they searched the Potters' family computer. And it was discovered that the hundreds of emails that had supposedly come from this CIA agent, Chris, were actually coming from the same IP address as the Potters' family computer. Whoever had written them wrote them on the Potter computer. It was assumed that this meant that Jenelle had created the fake agent Chris. Many have questioned whether her mother, Barbara, actually bought the story, or if she knew it was fake, but she kind of used it to encourage Marvin to take action. I really don't know where to fall on that one.
I don't either.
I don't want to believe that she was dumb enough to think that the CIA agent was real.
I do.
Then if you don't believe that she's dumb, then she was maliciously doing this on purpose.
I want to believe that this woman was dumb. Not dumb, but just was not thinking
was naive enough to believe the story.
Was isolated and had been thinking differently for a long period of time, was upset and was feeling threatened, and her child and Mama Bear and all these things. That's what I kind of want to wrap this up into, that instead of let's use this to get Marvin to kill him.
Yeah. Although there is a apple doesn't fall far from the tree kind of argument.
Completely. Where did she get this skill?
Yeah.
She learned by doing and watching, because how could she know how to do all this when she's just been locked in a goddamn tower?
Right?
Right?
In August 2013, authorities also arrested Jenelle and Barbara for the murders of Bill Payne and Billie Jean Hayworth. A few months later, in October 2013, Marvin was found guilty for the murders, and he's currently serving 2 life sentences. Jenelle's boyfriend, Jamie Curd, agreed to a plea deal of 25 years in prison.
That did not work out for him.
And I think, 25 years, there must have been enough evidence to suggest he had known everything.
He had to have, to get that, he had to have drawn the map and unlocked the front door for them.
Truly.
He had a spare key or some shit, or had a hide key. He was there. He led them. Something to do with it.
Yeah.
And it's funny, because a lot of the research I did, it wasn't really, they didn't. It's another reason that makes me think there might be some issues with Jamie, that they didn't reveal a lot. They didn't talk a lot about his aspect, what he knew, what he did. And I wonder if there's not like a HIPAA violation, but almost like let's just leave that. We'll give him this time or something, because why wouldn't they?
Just like a full understanding of
totally.
Let's just let this guy serve
his time.
Who
else they did that to in Arkansas was Jesse Miskelly.
Mm.
Well, he's just kind of, so we're just gonna,
Yeah.
I don't know.
There may be a certain aspect of that.
I feel like there is. I could be totally wrong.
In May 2015, 3.5 years after the murders, Jenelle and Barbara finally went on trial. The prosecution brought in experts to analyze the emails, and the experts noted that the author had many misspellings. There was inconsistent patterns of speech, and they described it as a generally childish writing style. Based on these findings, the experts determined that the emails must have been written by Jenelle. The defense attorney Cameron Hyder tried to argue that Marvin was the sole person responsible for his own actions, and Barbara and Jenelle had no knowledge. Her lawyer said, quote, "My client is not guilty for having an overprotective father. She is not capable of directing anyone to commit murder. It's just not in her."
She's not guilty of having an overprotective father, but she set this in motion. So, yeah.
Yeah. If she's the one that pushed that first domino, then it doesn't matter how overprotective he was and what happened in the end. She caused it.
There was definitely enough evidence.
She knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
There was no argument for that. She was way too involved. After 7 days of testimony, the jury found both Jenelle and Barbara guilty of first-degree murder, and they were both sentenced to life in prison. Barbara and Jenelle have both insisted that they did not murder anyone or orchestrate the murder.
Wow. So, Barbara also, to get first-degree murder conviction, you know what this tells me is that those emails that they put back together, that they reconstructed, was such a timeline.
Yes.
It was probably just a list of, on day 1, we do this. On day 2, we write this to this person. And then I fake this. And then it had to be.
Yeah, there had to be some clear-cut, just point A to point B directions of how it was going to go down and what was going on, because they had enough to convict 4 people, not just the person that pulled the trigger, but obviously there were enough people that had knowledge that they could prove it and convict them.
The other thing, too, is there's a lot of times where someone who has knowledge, whether it be Jamie or Barbara, they go to them, "Hey, I'll give you immunity. You tell me everything." Not here. And Jamie would have been the one
That's what I thought.
Sing and give the immunity to. Or if the mom really wasn't as involved, yeah, she kind of knew. She was upset. She's helping her daughter. She did write an email. Okay, whatever. But you give her immunity, right? Yeah. And then she sings. And then, the daughter is the one who, whatever, she goes, jail, blah, blah, blah. Or mom takes the whole thing, whatever. No way. That didn't happen. And that means that it's just, you have a video or something of them killing him,
Yeah, it had to be so clear cut that they had the evidence just putting everyone in play. They knew everyone's role.
And they had enough time because it's 3 years later. They've done a lot of investigating. They've redone all those shredded emails. They've redone everything. They've had enough time to read it all.
But you're right. It does seem really strange that not one of them were offered a deal in exchange for cooperation.
And they usually will say that, they were offered a deal, but they didn't take it.
But that was never ever
even
offered.
Noted, never even talked about.
And you're right. I mean, Jamie was the one, especially since he was so forthcoming with information from the very beginning.
And it was his family.
Yes, he would be the one to flip.
He's the one to flip.
Yeah. So there must have been so much involvement that all four of them had to just not even take that option and put it on the table.
Yeah, or there was, something, maybe murder weapon, disposing of that. Just, something like that.
Accessory after the fact.
Accessory after the fact. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. Something like that.
But it is very telling about the severity of what was done and how much they must have been involved for all four of them to be convicted.
The moral of the story here is don't unfriend anyone. No, unfriend everyone.
Yeah, I need to stop going on my blocking spree, I guess. I should learn a lesson from this.
It's funny because, we've all read a thread or something or read a post and you get really, invested and you're just like, wait, what am I doing? This isn't a big deal. This isn't even real life. And you'd come out of it and you're like, okay. But yeah, we do let ourselves get wrapped up and caught up in shit. Did you see that thread? Can you believe it? Oh my God, But not like that.
That's why I said at the beginning, when we discussed doing F for Facebook murders, I wanted to see every angle. And with every letter that we come to, I try and do that. Here's an example of this and here's an example of that. But this is one of the things is Facebook murders are not just about one, broadcasting a murder or two, catfishing someone into being a victim. It's also about the fact that people take social media so seriously that people get murdered over it.
And because people take social media so seriously, you can puppeteer shit. Crazy style.
You can create, like Jenelle did, an entire universe of haters and CIA agents. And, there's roles that everyone's playing in your entire catfish universe.
This is a great example too of my favorite thing is, people text me stuff and be like, did you hear this? And I'll just be like, where did you hear it? Where did you read that? The internet. And I'm like, oh, God damn it. Okay.
Everything's from the internet. Yeah. That's where we get all of our information.
So, it's just a good example of things aren't always as they appear also.
You always have to look into things.
I question everything. I just believe no one and trust no one. Every X-Files catchphrase. I am living it. But
well, that'll keep you safe.
Yeah.
You've learned tonight.
Yeah, it will. That's true. All right, everyone. So, wow. Don't unfriend everyone.
We'll definitely be back next week with another Facebook murder.
Crazy stuff.
So with all that said, before we get out of here, let's just thank our new Patreon supporters for this week. So we wanted to say thank you to Martha, Miku, Christina, and Stacy.
Thank you so much. And it really motivates us too. The more, people and the more it happens to make new, exciting, fun, super cool Patreon stuff.
Yeah, I really liked our 2 episodes that we just put out. And I've got a couple things in the work for Patreon.
There's a lot coming down the pike, if you will, Patreon.
So we really appreciate you guys. Again, thank you so much. And if you wanted to join our Patreon, it is going to be linked in our show notes. So you can join over there and get access to bonus episodes. So I think that's pretty much it. If you wanted to get something on our thread list, like a t-shirt or a phone case or anything, then check out our thread list. That link is in there as well. And follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you can, leave us a review or tell your friends about us. I know that not everyone can join Patreon and stuff. So we definitely appreciate everyone that just kind of gets the word out there and says nice things or messages us. It doesn't go unnoticed. We really appreciate all of that. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
We will see you next week for another Facebook killer.
Be safe, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
You've heard the stories of bloody murder and horrendous homicide. But what about the rest of the crimes people fall victim to every day? What about the forensic chemist who falsified evidence? Or the con man who pretended to be a surgeon? What happened to the rich men who kidnapped an entire bus of children? Who are the fraudsters, arsonists, bank robbers, drug lords, and more? I'm Lindsay, the host of Mugshot. Mugshot is a true crime podcast that brings you the non-murderous crimes you didn't know you needed to hear. Season 2 started in January of 2019, so come and join me by searching for Mugshot on your favorite podcatcher. Until then, stay out of trouble, or you may end up pictured in your very own mugshot.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's Employee of the Month, 2 months in a row. Leave a message at the... Hi, Jamie. It's me, Jamie. I just had a new idea for our song about the Name Your Price tool. So when it's like, tell us what you want to pay, hey, 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 and the trombone goes, wah, 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 and you say, we'll help you find coverage options to fit your budget. Then we just all do finger snaps while the choir goes, savings coming at ya, savings coming at ya. Yes? No? Maybe? Anyway, see your practice tonight. I got new lyrics for the rap break.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
The Starlight Lounge presents An Evening with the Progressive Box.
Old moon, yeah. That's Hugo, tickling the ivories. He just saved by bundling home and auto with Progressive. Gonna finally buy a ring for that gal of yours, Hugo? Send her my condolences. Hi-oh! This next one's for you two. There's a burglar in my heart. Thank you.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.